My name is Jake Whitman. I'm 41 years old, a structural engineer by profession, a perfectionist by habit, and someone who believes deeply in personal freedom, especially when it comes to the space I call home. That's why, 5 years ago, after grinding through overtime shifts and making careful investments, I finally bought myself 2 acres of land tucked against the base of a pine-covered hill in Colorado. I wasn't interested in cookie-cutter houses or cookie-cutter suburbs, and I sure as hell didn't want to live under the thumb of a homeowners association. I wanted something real, something that was entirely mine. I did my homework. The property wasn't part of any subdivision. In fact, it had been deliberately excluded from the development plans of the adjacent neighborhood, Maple Ridge Estetisa, a place I often referred to under my breath as Step Forward with Sprinklers. Their HOA paperwork specifically stated that my parcel was outside their jurisdiction. That detail was key, and I had my real estate attorney triple-check every map, deed, and zoning document to make certain. I was beyond their reach, and that made the land all the more satisfying. Building my home became my passion project. I designed every inch myself, from the solar-paneled roof to the underground water reclamation system. But the centerpiece was the pool. Not just any pool. It was carved into the slope of the hill with a retractable cover, a silent filtration system, and a sleek black safety fence. It was beautiful, private, and represented everything I had worked for. My wife, Emily, poured her heart into the landscaping. Each spring and summer, she turned the space into something worthy of a magazine cover: roses, lavender, hydrangeas, even a vegetable patch just off the deck. It was our oasis. No shared walls, no shared yards, no dues, no one measuring grass blade heights or mandating fence colors. Just the sound of the wind through the pines and the satisfaction of ownership free from meddling interference. That peace lasted exactly 5 years. It started quietly. Almost innocently, a copy of Maple Ridge Estates' community newsletter showed up in our mailbox. Seemed odd, but I tossed it. Then came a flyer inviting us to a neighborhood compliance review meeting. I laughed, assuming it was just a blanket mailer. But then, at the hardware store one Saturday, I overheard a conversation between 2 residents. One of them mentioned the guy with the non-compliant pool. That caught my attention. A week later, Emily told me she'd seen a woman, blonde, wearing sunglasses, carrying a clipboard, lingering near the edge of our property, snapping photos. I checked the footage from our perimeter cameras. She wasn't just taking pictures. She was measuring, pacing, and speaking into her phone with the confidence of someone who believed the world should jump when she said so. That's when I learned her name: Caroline Foster, president of the Maple Ridge Estates HOA. I had no idea just how far she'd go, or how close we were to losing the peace we had built with our own hands. It all came crashing down one Thursday afternoon. I had just returned from a business trip, exhausted, dreaming of nothing more than a cold beer and a peaceful hour by the pool. But as I pulled up the drive, I stopped dead. The side gate, the one that led to my pool, was welded shut. Heavy iron bars crisscrossed the entrance, secured with a thick chain and padlock. A freshly laminated sign flapped against the gate in the breeze. Restricted access. Closed by order of Maple Ridge Estates HOA. I killed the engine and sat there in disbelief. This couldn't be happening. That gate, that pool, the entire R8 was my property, a full 20 feet outside the HOA boundary. I'd measured it myself over and over. I walked up slowly, my hands clenched. 2 bulky men in matching windbreakers stood nearby. One of them looked like he'd done a few years on a semi-pro football team. The other held a clipboard. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step away from the gate," clipboard guy droned in a monotone. "Step away from my gate?" I repeated, barely able to believe my ears. "You're in violation of community ordinance," he recited. "Use of this recreational facility is suspended pending board review." I laughed. It sounded unhinged, even to me. "You think this is a community pool? This is my private property." The linebacker chimed in, "Per Maple Ridge bylaws, structures within 100 feet of designated green space must comply with safety standards." "That's not binding here," I snapped, already reaching for my phone. "You have 0 jurisdiction. This land isn't part of Maple Ridge. Never has been. I've got the paperwork to prove it." Clipboard guy coolly handed me a photocopied board directive, complete with a pseudo-official logo. I ripped it in half. "Move the gate. Now." "Can't do that, sir." I called Emily. She was furious the moment she saw the footage. Then I called Caroline Foster. She answered with the sugary tone of someone who believed they were above reproach. "Ah, Mr. Whitman," she purred. "So sorry for the inconvenience. But we've received multiple complaints. Your pool is visible from the community's walking path. That makes it fall within our visual recreational perimeter. We must ensure it meets compliance standards. You've got 30 seconds to tell your goons to open my damn gate before I call the sheriff." She sighed theatrically. "Jake, don't be difficult. We're simply protecting the integrity of the neighborhood." I dropped the call to speakerphone and let it hang there in the grass while I dialed the police on another line. That locked gate was only the beginning. The next day, around noon, I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. I stepped out onto the porch as a white SUV pulled up, idling like a predator watching its prey. Caroline stepped out, pastel blazer, oversized sunglasses, chin high. But she wasn't alone. Behind her came a man in a gray suit with a leather folio lawyer, clearly another muscle-bound security guard, this one bigger than the last two. Caroline marched up the path. "Mr. Whitman, let's be reasonable. Please don't escalate this. You welded my gate shut and sent hired muscle to enforce it. I'd say you escalated just fine on your own." She offered a tight smile. "The board has unanimously voted to classify your pool as a shared recreational facility, based on its visibility and proximity to our walking trail. I'm not in your HOA. Your guidelines don't apply here." The lawyer cleared his throat. "Actually, under Section 14C of the Maple Ridge Expansion Plan, the HOA reserves oversight authority over adjacent recreational structures. My deed predates your HOA by over a decade. I have surveys, plats, and the county zoning office backing me up." Caroline waved dismissively. "We've also received dozens of safety complaints. There's no lifeguard, no posted emergency plan, no first aid station. My wife and I swim here privately. We're adults. We don't need a lifeguard." Caroline's voice rose. "You're endangering the community, Jake. You can't pretend your actions don't affect others." I pulled out my gate key. "Move. Now." The guard lunged. Too fast. He shoved me back before I could insert the key. I stumbled into Emily's rose bed. "Don't touch me," I warned. But he moved in again. This time I was ready. I caught his wrist, twisted, and threw him into the fence post. Dana's scream echoed from the porch. She was running, filming everything on her phone. The second guard lunged for her. "Hand over the phone." She swung it into his face, cracking the screen and his eyebrow. Blood welled instantly. Caroline shrieked. "They attacked us. Arrest them." "You broke onto my land," I shouted back. "You assaulted me. And my cameras caught every damn second." Dana whispered, "I already called the cops. They're on the way." Caroline's lawyer paled. "Karen, they have video. This isn't." "Get them arrested," Caroline screamed. "I am the HOA president." The first sirens echoed up the hill. When the cruisers rolled in, I felt the tide finally turning. 2 officers approached, calm but alert. One recognized me from a previous minor boundary dispute. "Mr. Whitman, can you explain what's going on here?" Before I could speak, Caroline jumped in. "They attacked my security team while we were enforcing HOA compliance." I pointed to the porch camera. "That's a lie. The footage says otherwise." The officers reviewed the video right there on our living room monitor. The truth was undeniable. Assault. Trespass. Conspiracy. The guards were cuffed without resistance. Caroline didn't go quietly. She shouted about her position, her authority, her intentions, but the officers were unmoved. "Ma'am, you're under arrest." It didn't end there. But that was the moment I knew the fight was far from over. But justice was finally awake. And this time it had teeth.